Hello, fourth graders. This is using sit and set correctly, pages 237 to 238. So we've just got done learning about, plural and singular verb and making sure the subject and verb matches. From now on, for language, we'll be doing some pretty simple lessons. We're going to be talking about, for the next couple of weeks, it's going to be mostly about how to use certain words that look very familiar. For example, we'll talk about how to use lie versus lay. Okay, what are the differences and what's the correct way to use each word? Or you might go over accept versus accept. All right, words that sound very similar but mean very different things. And for example, we are going to go over your versus your. All right, sound the same, but again, means very different things. So that's just kind of give you a sneak peek of what we will do for probably the next couple of weeks. All right, so let's continue with today's lesson. All right, sits versus set. So let's look at sit first. What does sits mean? All right, to sit down, as you guys know, or to sit is to rest or to be seated. Something you do to yourself, right? And the different forms is sat. So this the past tense is sat, present tense is sitting, and future is sit, right? If you want to say you have experience sitting down, you might say have sat. But for sat, past tense, you might say I have sat there before, or for present tense, I'm sitting down. For the future tense, you say I would sit next to him and during lunch. Okay, or for show that you have experience, you can say I have sat down on that chair before. All right, so that's sit down. That's sit. Something I'm sure you guys are very familiar. I'll explain later on what I mean by do to yourself. Okay, next word is set. To set means to put or place something you do to something else. The different forms of set is the past tense is set, present is setting, future tense is set, so similar to the past tense. And to show you have experience, you would say have set, okay? Or have or yeah, uh, whatever helping verb you want to use, and you have to use set. For example, each sentence you can say, I already set the table. All right. You don't say setted. All right. The past form of set is set. Or you can say for present tense, you can say I am setting the table. And for the future tense, you would say I will set the table. And to show that you have experience, you said I have set the table before. All right. So what do I mean by do to yourself and do to something else? Well, when you sit down, or when something sits down, they're doing it by themselves. All right, nothing's making them sit down. It's something that you do on your own. Okay, someone can command you to sit down, yeah, but you're doing the action yourself, to yourself. For setting, it's something that you have to do to something else. All right, you're making something else set down. You're setting something else down. You can't say I sit the pencil down on the table. All right, that's incorrect, right? I sit the pencil down on the table. All right, you can't say that because for sit, it's something you have to do to yourself. All right, if you're talking about laying something else down or setting something else down or putting something else down, you would use set. All right, so you want to use sit, you would say I set the pencil down because you are doing it to something else. All right, another example I think would help you. Let's see. I can say, I'll write it right down here. I can say, let me erase this first. Here's another example. The dog sat on the bed. All right. So when I say the dog sat on the bed, I'm saying that the dog, went to the bed and he sat down by himself, right? Something he did to himself. All right. I can also say I set the. Let me write it in pink. I can also say I set the dog on the bed. So in this case, I am taking the dog and putting him on the bed. All right, so I set the dog on the bed. Since I'm doing it to something else, I would say set. All right, so you would not say I sat the dog on the bed. No, because sat or sit is only something you do to yourself. All right, hopefully you guys understand that, but I'm pretty sure you guys, you know how to use sit and set. And set, this is the verb form, you know, just to clarify. There is a noun form of set, like I have a set of basketball cards. All right, but in this case, we're talking about the verb form set. All right, so that's the difference between sit and set. Pretty much, if you're doing it to yourself, you would say sit. If you're doing it to something else, you would say set. All right. Let's go over our homework. So this is just a kind of a summary of what I just talked about. All right. Oh, another really important thing you have to keep in mind for set is that you have to, in your sentence, if you're using set, you should tell the reader what are you setting down. So I set the dog on the bed. So you would need to have an object when you are using the word set. All right. So let's go over our worksheet. So think A says fill in the blank with the correct form of sit or set. If you used a form of the verb set, circle the object, which is being put or placed. All right, so if you're using set, you have to tell the reader what the object is. What are you setting down? All right, number one, we will blank sit or set here until dinner time. So obviously, since we are doing it, so since we are laying ourselves down, we would say sit. All right, no one is putting us on the no one is putting us on the chair, right? We're doing it to ourselves. We're laying ourselves down. So we would say we will sit here until dinner time. All right. If you're not sure, just read the sentence out loud to yourself. If I said we will sit here until dinner time, that doesn't make sense, right? That doesn't sound right. Number two, sit or set down, please, Ashley. So this person is asking someone else to lay down, right? Lay themselves down. So if they're doing it to themselves, then you would say sit. All right. Let's do number three real quick. Would you please sit or set the box down over by the barrel? All right. So who are they asking to lay down? Are they asking a person to do it themselves or asking a person to do it something else? Would you please blank the box down over by the barrel? Since they're asking this person to lay down the box, so if they're doing it to something else, you would say set. All right. Because set is for, if you're laying something else, you're doing it to something else. So what is the object? Since we use the word set, we have to circle the object. What's the object here? What are we setting down? Would you please set the box down over by the barrel? Well, it's the box, right? What are we setting down? We're setting down the box. All right, so that's pretty much what you would do in Think A. Next page. Think B. Underline the correct verb in parentheses. If you used a okay, so it's underline. If you used a form of the verb set, circle the object, which is being put or placed. All right. So number one, I sat or sat alone during the meeting. Okay, so what is being placed? Is something being placed on their own, or is another person placing something else down? All right, so I blank alone during the meeting. So since this person is doing it to themselves, you would use the word sit, right? And the sat is the past tense of sit. Okay, since I use sit, do I need to find the object? No, right? Because I'm using sit, not set. All right, Sally set or sat her kitten in its basket. Okay, so is this person Sally? Is she putting herself down or putting something else down? If we read the sentence, we can see that her kitten, Sally blank her kitten in its basket. So she's putting something else down. So we would underline set. All right, did this part wrong too. So I should have underlined sat instead of circled it. Okay. All right. So Sally set her kitten in the basket. Since I used the word set, I have to find the object. What's my object in the sentence? What am I setting down? All right, kitten, right? Okay. All right, so write C on notebook paper. Write these 3 sentences using sits, sets, and sats. Look for errors in. Okay, so you would need to do this on separate piece of paper, definitely, because you don't have enough space on here. So just write 3 sentences. So I guess 1 sentence for sit, 1 sentence for set, and the third sentence would be using the word sat, the past tense of sit. All right. All right. Remember D. Look for errors in punctuation and capitalization. Write C for correct or I for incorrect and the blank. Okay, so you're pretty much just looking at the sentence here. Just read it. And if it looks all correct to you, write C. Write C here. If it doesn't look correct to you, write I. And I guess you don't have to correct it since, yeah. Okay, so if it's incorrect, just write I. If it's correct, write C. All right. Alrighty, that's about it. Okay, so pretty simple. All right, if you have any questions, go ahead and text me or email me. Okay, take care.